This may not be a jetpack, but it's the next best thing. It's a really cool electric scooter. Buy or sell your car now with CarBuyer Singapore. And remember to check out the latest automotive content with us. Now, BMW is getting really good at being first in the electric scene. BMW was the first car maker to have a passenger EV on sale here. That was the i3 back in 2013. And now it's the first bike maker to have a full Class 2 electric motor scooter on sale here in Singapore. This is the BMW CE 04. Now, this isn't even the first electric scooter BMW has made. They made the CE Evolution a while ago, but that never came to Singapore. But I think the CE 04 is important, number one, because you can actually seriously consider this for a zero emissions commute, and also it looks really cool. Now, I think the CE 04 is interesting not just because it looks cool, but there are also reasons why it looks the way it does. Now, obviously, this thing looks like it came straight out of Night City. Cyberpunk, yo, I'm gonna shoot people, get some eddies. Now, the reason why the bike looks the way it does is because of ease of handling. If you remember our first electric bike review, that was the Energica SS, that looks pretty much like a normal motorcycle. This one doesn't. This one's an electric scooter, and the batteries are flat in the underfloor, just like an EV. And the interesting thing to note is the battery for this comes from the BMW i3, so nice tie in there. Right here, there's an electric motor of about 40 horsepower, and that comes from the BMW 225xe, so another BMW i link there. Very cool. But the reason why the bike looks so different is because, as I said, it's an EV, and we've got a single-sided swing arm, we've got the motor down there, we even got an inset brake caliper, as well as a very interesting suspension design right here, and a belt drive. And what's also interesting is, besides the futuristic design cues like the orange seat, the squared off lines, BMW has also paid quite a lot of attention to aerodynamics. We've got our aero screen, we've got this fairing that kind of wraps around you, pushes the air away, just like a normal scooter, but there's also wings down here as well. And there's even brake covers. So just like in BMW i cars, BMW has maximized the aerodynamics so that we can go for longer range without having a huge battery. Okay, up here in the cockpit, things are a little bit more familiar. BMW's keyless ride, so I'll just turn on the bike like this. And we have a 10.25-inch infotainment display. Very useful, like all BMW bikes. We got our iRide controller, like I like to call it. You can scroll through all the menu options and everything. Full data on your riding conditions and data, how far you've gone, all that sort of thing. And of course, if you have a phone and you pair it with your BMW Motorrad app, you can have turn-by-turn navigation as well. So what is also pretty cool about this bike is there's a little, how do I open this? There we go, open. Ooh, that's really cool. There's a cell phone compartment in here. Go in. So it's kind of spring-loaded, very cool. So I just pop this out, comes back out. Pop this out, come back out. Very cool. And there's a little charging port for your phone as well. Over here is the charge port. So sharp-eyed viewers might notice that this is not a combined charging port, and it's a regular AC port. So the maximum rate of charge for this bike is about 7 kilowatts, not like an electric car or anything, but that's not really a big problem, and I'll explain why later on. So this is a Maxi scoot, and luckily BMW has engineered some convenience. There's actually a compartment right here. That's pretty cool. And I figured that it can actually fit my helmet if I do it right. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. So actually quite a sizable little compartment down there. And part of the BMW official accessories is a top box, although it's not pictured. But I figure you could put quite a bit of equipment, maybe not a huge amount, but good enough for a normal Maxi scoot. Okay, so the big question is, of course, this is an electric bike. What's the range like? With the Energica we tested, that did about more than 150 kilometers, but it had a really large battery. This bike has a quite small battery, 8.5 kilowatt hours. So you compare that to something like a BMW iX SUV, that's almost 8 times as small. And the Energica battery is about twice as much as this baby does. And the officially quoted range for this bike is about 130 kilometers. And we're going to test that out in real life. But let's talk about the performance. So we're going to put up the specs here for you as well. About 40 horsepower, 60 newton meters of torque. That's about comparable performance to a Yamaha T-Max 530. Now, the interesting thing about this bike is that because the battery isn't particularly large, this bike weighs about 230 kilos all in, and a typical Maxi skill also about 200 kilos as well. So it's really not that hard to maneuver around when you're pushing it. And of course, we've got that really neat trick of having reverse gear. But okay, now I'm gonna go ride it and tell you what it's like. So I'm gonna show you how to start the BMW CE04. This is a keyless ride bike, so the key's in my pocket. I just press the start button, or rather the on button. And right now this shows me that the bike is on, but it's not actually ready to run. What I do now is I hold the brakes and press the starter. There we go, and now it says ready, we're ready to roll. Now the first thing you notice about the CE04 is that it's really quiet, just like every other EV. There's a sort of weird low humming noise coming from the motor, and it really draws your attention to the fact that everyone else is making a lot of noise. I would really love if every delivery rider in Singapore rode one of these. No more in the middle of the night. So it's very peaceful, very quiet, and there's not a huge amount of wind protection, but the low slung weight makes it really easy to ride in urban situations. Now 0 to 50 in just 2.7 seconds means the bike has a lot of low end punch, and that's really fun sometimes, but if you do keep gunning it forward, you will drain the battery. We rode the bike quite gently over the course of a few days and got pretty impressive energy efficiency. Theoretically, you can only go 130 km, but we did better than that. We did about 5.5 kilowatt hours per 100 km, which gives you around 150 km range. And that would mean for the average Singaporean whose commute is less than 50 km a day, you can charge it every 2 days. Now the bike is a little bit jittery like heavy EVs tend to be, but otherwise the long wheelbase means it's really stable, and like we said, the low slung weight means it's also quite easy to maneuver. Reverse gear is of course very useful. So it's quiet, it's easy to ride, and it's really stable. So it's perfectly suited for Singapore, and especially if you want no tailpipe emissions and no sound. So let's sum up. The BMW CE04 looks really cool. It's zero emissions. You can ride it every day if you charge. But the big but here is it's a little bit expensive. This bike costs $54,000 without a COE, and that's plenty of money in this day and age. But I figure if you're willing to go for the zero emissions thing this early in the motorcycle game, then you will reap the rewards. It's cheaper to run, it's zero emissions, and it's really cool. Oh, now I can move. My ass.